Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. This is a situation in Ghana, and I'm sure probably in some parts of Africa, we will not be able to be certain about it, but accusation of witchcraft among women is an issue in Africa, is an issue in Ghana, and even though it's more widespread in the northern part of Ghana, we still have traces of it in the southern part. And sometimes in terms of handling the issue in the southern part and the middle part of Ghana, I think there's a little bit of moderation to the issue. But when we go up north, that is where the issue becomes a scourge on national conscience. And it's been a practice that has been there for over 200 years in Ghana. And we have various situations in the northern region which makes or entrenches this practice. And so today, myself and Gueneba will be making a presentation on this, and we trust that we'll be able to pass our message clear to you. It's also a generational issue because I said it's a 200 years practice. You have the situation that people can just get a dream. Somebody will wake up one day and says that, oh, I dreamt that because I was feeling sick, I saw you in my dream, and so that could also lead to you being accused as a witch. It could also be that there could be some ripples of deaths happening in the family, and a lady who is very vulnerable, in most cases, these are very old ladies, then they could be also accused as witch. You could also have situations where, even to the extent that in that locality, probably there was a bushfire and it destroyed something, and then they could say that there is an old lady who is the cause of this, and that could also lead to accusation of witchcraft. And in most cases, when this happens, either the person is threatened, either the person is lynched, either the person is killed. And so there are so many ways in which they respond to when one person is accused. And sometimes the accusations are coming not from even outside your family, but it could also be from your own family. Your daughter, your son can accuse you that my not being well in life is because of you. And I've had a number of confirmations in my dream or whatever, and I think you are the cause. And when such a person makes such a remark, the whole family can come up together and say that, look, indeed, you are. And so what happens is that when you are declared as a witch, there is an inquest being done. And usually the inquest will be done by some family members, or you'll be taken to a shrine. And sometimes it's amazing, the process. I read in some instances where if you are accused, the lady or whoever in question would come forward, and there will be two brooms. And the two brooms will be put on your neck, and you'll be dragged forward. If the brooms comes together, then you are guilty. If the brooms stay apart, then you are safe. And so these are some of the procedures that goes into it. And even in some instances, a chicken will be brought and slaughtered and thrown. And then if the chicken falls facing the ground, you are guilty. If it falls facing the sky, you are not guilty. And so there are so many ways of declaring who is a witch. The practice has existed for so many years because of the creation of what we call the witch camps. in the northern part, we have about 7 witch camps. And these are camps that if someone is declared a witch and the person can make a request that please take me to the camp, or family members could also request that take me to the camp or take their person to the camp. And so the camps have also been there to entrench the practice, because in the camp, also when you get there, you go through a ritual, and the ritual will also ascertain whether you are indeed one or not. And the camps, in some respects, are also a place of safety net for these women. Because if these women do not go to the camp, they might lose their lives. And so the camps becomes a safety net. And social actors in Ghana over the years have tried to disband this camp. But government has tried to disband this camp. But social actors come up and say that, look, please, if you disband this camp, we are not too sure about the fate of these women and these vulnerable women. And so the camp continues to exist. Recently, they attempted to close one camp, and in closing, we will find the ladies coming back to the camp, even though it was closed, and they will be sitting and staying over there with nobody to take care of them. And so it tells us the issue that the camps becomes a safe haven for some of these ladies. Then also we have the role of local deities, because when the situation happens, sometimes you are taken to a shrine and the shrine would rectify or not rectify your accusation. Again, some of these issues in the northern region happens because we have low literacy levels in the northern region. And between the north and the south, there's a big gap in terms of educational facilities and opportunities. And so it tends to thrive very well over there. And also sometimes because they have low levels of education in terms of development, they are also challenged in that regard. So the accusations tends to increase more over there. Then again, we have interventions by government and churches and other groups trying to make sure that the dialogue on the issue, because, anytime the issue comes up, it becomes a problem for the nation. Because why do we have a certain group of people in the country who we decide that they can't be accused as witches and then move away from their family and to go and stay somewhere? And so the discussions continues, and it appears we are clueless about what to do because of the notion of witchcraft, and which has been an issue probably generations and centuries. And in terms of law, there is clear law on abuse. There's clear law on taking somebody's life. There is clear law on what you do to another person. But it becomes a challenge because you have tradition weaved into the situation. You have cultural structures weaved into the situation. And so even though you have politicians in the local level, you have police people in the local level, they have very little to do, because when the situation happens, there is a mob action, there is a group of people, and it is difficult to pinpoint and pick someone. We have understood some factors that we have not been able as a nation to really challenge the local narratives. Because if someone says that, look, I got a dream because I was sick and I saw you in my dream, and the person says it to someone, and then the person passes on, and then the person comes, the one who heard it says that this lady told me that she saw this person in a dream, and that's the reason why she brought the sickness to that person, and the person passed away. And nobody inquires whether the sickness has a medical situation to it. Nobody questions how come the situation, if it's a bushfire, how did the bushfire come about? Nobody questions. And so local narratives has not been really challenged so that we can really speak to the issue as a nation. And it's a big issue that we are all struggling to ensure that in that dialogue, some of these narratives are really brought to fore, and then we question them. Because without questioning some of these things, we'll keep the situation going. Then again, also within the cultural structures, you have a strong obsession to divination. Everything, everybody wants to go and consult. And they believe that, you know, everything has a spiritual connotation to it. And so when you have a situation or it's a community where everything is spiritualized, you will have such a situation. And then again, we are talking about the weak enforcement of law. Perpetrators go scot-free. They are not brought to the book. They are not arrested. Just about 2 years ago, we were even in the place where we were having a trauma healing on Story Base, and we just got to know of a lady, a 71-year-old lady, who was almost nearly lynched by a group because she was accused as a witch. And no police engagement, no perpetrators brought to the book. And so you find this woman being at the helm of being always accused as witch. Then the closure of camps is also the one issue, which I've already talked about. Then again, we have a situation where there is a weak reintegration system. When these ladies, even, because in most cases, you would have the situation where the god so-called can declare that you are not a witch. But because she comes to the camp, and she feels that because I've come to the camp, I don't want to go back home, because if I go back home, I'm not too sure how I'll be accepted. And so most of these women decide to stay in the camp, and it makes reintegration back into the system very difficult, because we have had instances of ladies who went back to the camp and were accused again, and they had to come back. Clearly, when they go through accusations, they have a lot of issues that they contend with. Sometimes their right to life is curtailed. Where to live as a dignified person is curtailed. And in most cases, when they come to the camp, they have to build their own huts. And so you find these ladies go to the bush, make all the marks so that they can build a hut for themselves. The right to be different, because in most cases also, if the lady in question in a hut, and sometimes for those of them who really were not, who really came out not as witchcraft, as witches, they said that they were actually coerced to confess. And so in the moment of threat, in the moment of death, in the moment of all the appeals, they felt this was a good opportunity for me to say that I am a witch. I caused the situation. And then when they come to the camp and they went through the ritual, and the ritual found them not to be so, so we realized that some of them had to go through a lot of coerced confession. Forced exile, I mean, they are exiled out of their house. They never come back again. Some of them live in the camp for over 40 years. They die in the camp, and they never have a reconnection with their family for so many years. In some instances, the family members, one or two, will decide to come to stay with their mom in the camp so that they can help. But in most cases, if your own children accuses you, then it means that you stay there alone. And social life is disrupted. When they are sick, they have no money to go to hospitals. And so sometimes there were cases where they will be on the farm, and then a report will be brought that one person has fallen dead in the farm. Again, beyond the ladies in question or the victims in question, we also have the situation where the families of the victims also faces some form of situation. And one situation they face, because if they live in the community and their parents or their mom or whoever is in the camp, they are isolated and discriminated in the communities, because if you live in a community and you want to buy something, nobody wants to take your money because your mom was a witch. Why should I take your money so that you also infect me with something? And so the children of these victims becomes isolated, and they have stigma for life in the communities in which they live. And in most cases, you find the children moving out of the community to go and reside in other community. The children are accused, economic livelihood affected. Even to marry is a problem, because how do you marry someone whose parent is a witch? And in Africa, because of the communal nature, where you are coming from, everything about your parents affects you. And so if your parent was declared a witch for whatever, nobody wants to have anything to do with you. So education and marriage and blah, blah, blah is affected. The children do not have enough parental love and care and support. So, and in some instances where younger ladies were accused, their children had to follow them to the camp. We have also noticed the role of the church. Government has done quite a few interventions, and it hasn't really helped much, because the only intervention government has is to close down the camps, and which has also been a failure. So the church also comes in to see what to do with the situation. And one of the things that we have noticed about what the church is doing in the camps is that they bring quite a lot of holistic approach to the issue in the camp. So sometimes they are bringing them material support, provisions, so that these ladies can just fend on. And then the churches also set up rehabilitation systems and integration systems and counseling and prayer, because they also believe that these ladies will also have to go through these processes. Evangelism and discipleship are in the camp, so that at least back in 2002, when I was quite young in the Bible Society work, and I got to know about this camp, I decided to drive to the camp. And my colleagues were just worried that, what are you going to do there? If you come back, aren't you going to be affected? Won't you be bewitched in a certain way? And so I decided to go to the camp, and I felt in my heart that if Jesus died for everybody, and even if they are so-called witch, they can also be reached with the word of God. And so I took the audio scriptures in the particular languages of the groups in the area, and I went to give it to them. And then when I got there, I realized that there was no place for church and blah, blah, blah. So I had to speak to World Vision. And I said, look, please, we have been able to set up some of these women to listen to scriptures. And so can you come and put up a nice hut for them, so that they can gather around the scriptures and listen? And so that was my beginning to the camp. And so when trauma healing came, we felt that this was a good opportunity for us also to speak to the hurting hearts of these women, because they live with the situation, being accused wrongly, being victims of accusation that they are not privy to for so many years, for 40 years, for 50 years, living with pain. And some of them can't speak. And the church is also doing their bit in terms of lobbying for justice for people who are accused and perpetrators who accuses these ladies and take them through. Then again, we also begin to see that even though the church intervention is good, you realize that some of the church's emphasis on demonology is also not helping much, because, in Africa sometimes everything must be prayed. and everything that happens, has a certain demons and spirituality to it. And so you find a strong emphasis on demonology and also poor pastoral education to be able to handle such cases. And when they go to the camp, in terms of counseling skills and blah, 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 it wasn't there. I would want to stop here and ask Gueneba, because when we brought the trauma healing to the camp, she's been one person who has been with us in the journey to see what trauma healing, especially from the story-based point of view, can do to some of these women. And so she will share with us some of the impacts
Thank you, Charles. Now we are going to share about the trauma healing intervention. As he said, many people in the northern part of Ghana are illiterate, so we decided to do the story-based trauma healing, which is the oral approach. So we developed a special story set called the AMA story that fits their situation. And we did 2 trainings, initial and advanced, and we trained a total of 14 facilitators in 3 languages, but 2 are spoken in the camps. And we are planning to train 30 more facilitators this year. As a result, more than 1,000 people have attended healing groups in 2 major camps. And the facilitators we trained actually led 21 healing groups with an average of attendance of 50. Those who are facilitators, this is not the right number of a healing group. This is, this is a contextual arrangement because the need is so huge and the pressure is high. People do not, they cannot just understand why I'm not accepted in that healing group and yet I am suffering so much. You see, so in some situation you have to make decision, and in that case, we advise the facilitator to emphasize on small group discussion. Yesterday, we saw through the result of the research that the smaller the number, the greater the results. So we are conscious of that. So we advise the facilitator to put emphasis on small group discussion. And more than 250 people gave their life to Christ. And we notice a strong collaboration with the local churches and life-changing testimonies are many. We may not have time to share all of them here, but most of those women, they were able to forgive to those who chased them away. And most of them were able to now join churches and to live a normal Christian life. And they all say, well, we feel like a burden has been removed on us. And when we visited the camp during the advanced training, something very interesting happened. Which? Okay, so this is a man who decided to make a song right there, just listening to what we saw, because we dramatized 2 stories there. So after we finished, he just started singing, and in the song he says that, my pain was more bitter than the scorpion bite, but now I am healed. That's what he was singing, and we really joined the movement to dance with him. So these are the kind of testimonies you can have there. There are many. We don't have time to share all of them now. And as challenges, one of the main challenges is that people have monetary expectation. Because some NGOs also go there to work with them. When they go, they do give maybe some gifts or money. So anybody that comes there to work with them, they expect you to give them money. And another challenge is the unavailability of women to attend the training, because we did the training in a major town. So the women are not able to leave the camp and attend the training. But for the training this year, we plan to do the training within the camp. Though last time some people told us, oh, don't come and sleep here because we are witches. So we will try to bring solution to those challenges. Thank you very much for your attention.